ask some questions of one of our design stalwarts?
Actually, Chris, I have a question for you. For the immersion, I know you're going totally into it. I had an idea I talked to with my fellow.
I'm thinking the branches.
I was thinking, like, there's going to be your helmets on the spacesuits, correct?
Yeah.
And I was also thinking, like, maybe there's you can have a choice to, like, take it off.
Like, no, you can. You definitely. I mean, if you're in your ship, like most of the ships, you don't need to be wearing like your helmet. Like, if you're in the military and flying the Hornet, you're like fully kitted out because you're in combat.
You have that chance to canopy
but
breaks.
generally, if you're flying like the 300i or the Aurora, you don't have to be wearing a spacesuit at all. I mean,
Yeah.
if there is a hull breach, then there'll be an issue. But generally, you don't. And that parasite suit is meant to have a deployed sort of glass thing that comes out of the top of the suit.
Yeah.
So it's not like an actual helmet you fit on top.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah.
Doesn't look like it.
Hey, Tim, you can take my.
Would there be like some sort of like, do you see like on the actual glass?
you can HUD on all your ships, and some of it is in front of you, and some of it will be on your glass.
Oh, okay, that's good.
And that's all actually done and simulated in 3D, stereoscopic 3D.
But if you're running, I brought some.
Did you really?
It won't be kind of overlaid. Like,
No, I think that. So basically,
Yeah. Have you ever tried Lagavulin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you have to
It's a level below our deck.
Should
I
we-
think
It
Lagavulin's smoother. Our makes it harsher.
depends. It's an Ugadal.
because we gotta figure out how to.
That's the one you got there.
Okay. I'll try anything. I'm a bourbon and scotch guy. So.
Oh, we
Hey,
got
Hey, Chris, we got some new people.
Awesome. We probably need to figure out like talking terms because otherwise everyone will be like
You're right.
we'll be talking over each other.
We got Dane here Dane's a pilot from the Air Force.
Hey Dane.
How's it
Welcome.
going?
Very good.
Dane came here from Canton Air Force Base, New Mexico. It's in Clovis, right there on the Texas border. Yeah, I'm in the Air Force. I fly the DF-328, and it's good to be here.
Right. Well, thank you for backing. Thank you for making the journey down here, and it's pretty awesome. I think there's going to be a few people playing this game that's going to be able to kick all the devs' ass.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, one of the things I'm actually really curious to find out about is, does anybody in your shop here have flight experience? I mean, do you guys know what you're looking at when you see some instruments? How are you designing the cockpits? Like, is it logical?
Well, there's a certain amount of it. I mean, a little bit of it is sort of science fantasy, right? So, you know, because the space combat isn't what space combat probably would be. I mean, essentially, space combat will probably be entirely unmanned, I would guess, because, you know, like one of the things that if you think about, well, I mean, you know, you're a pilot, but, you know, there's only so much a human body can take. So if you think about like what you can do in space where you don't have any resistance, you don't really have any top speed, if you're doing, sort of very violent, rapid maneuvers like you would do in close combat, actually your airframe or your space frame could take a lot more, you know, G-force or whatever than you could as a pilot. So you would probably, if people were flying ships in space and dogfighting, you would probably limit the speed, sort of how quickly you would turn. The computer would limit it so not to kill the pilot. Whereas if you didn't have a pilot, it could do a lot more. So probably a real game the real future would mostly be unmanned combat, I would guess. But obviously that's not the Star Wars fantasy that we all love. So, but it is a good fictional reason why we're going to have your sort of top speeds limited to a certain extent, because we're actually going to simulate G-forces on the body. So essentially, as you go faster, your flight control system will prevent you from turning too far that would create too much force on you. And we're actually going to let later on, if you could like turn off some of the safety features, because there's always a boundary between safe and lethal. And so I think what would be fun would be some pilots that like live on the edge, turn that off, and you know they can push a few more G's, but if they don't watch it, they may black out or you know really hurt themselves. But maybe that gives them a bit of an edge in combat.
So is the game not going to incorporate like inertial damping?
Well, we're going to have. I mean, I think we're going to, depending on what we do, we'd have some. But I mean, a lot of the sci-fi thing is like we just full inertial damping, and I don't know quite how you would do that. That's just sort of, you know, I mean, like if I'm going forward this fast and I go like that, that's a huge. I mean, even on. I mean, you can speak more to it, but even in today's some of the newer craft today can pull way more G's than the pilot can stand, right? I mean,
Absolutely. I'm not looking for simulator level stuff here because even now, as you say, we're reaching the level of where it's physically practical to have a human in the cockpit. I understand that where the game's going is an alternate reality kind of deal where, you know, you still have fighters in the pilot or in the cockpit for whatever reason. What I'm looking for is an instrument cluster where I look at it, I get information that is useful to me, and it doesn't just make me wonder, why is that there? Rather than, you know, I'm just wondering, are you guys going to be, I guess what I want to know is, are you guys going to respond very well to feedback on the cockpit design? Because I know there are people like me and other guys I've been talking to from my forums where they're going to talk about, are things convincing? Can we have electronic warfare that's not just point, click, activate kind of deal? Is it something where I can look at a screen and it looks like something that's convincing, like it's something that maybe that doesn't immediately pull you out of the alternate reality?
Well, first of all, we'd love the feedback. I mean, that's the whole point of like engaging and getting the community in this early is to basically, I mean, it's an awesome resource. I mean, we've got so many, I mean, there's yourself and a whole bunch of other people that actually have like, real practical combat experience or flight experience and that can give feedback. So we definitely want all that. I mean, I would say that there's kind of so we sort of inform some of the design choices by what you sort of see in like modern, you know, like whatever's happening on the F-35 or the Eurofighter, all that kind of stuff. And then on top of that, we're sort of going one level before. So you haven't really seen it, but like the model I like the best is sort of the Iron Man model. If you've seen the HUD inside Iron Man 1 and 2 and 3, where all sort of floats and it's sort of intelligent tagging and stuff. So that's actually the model of the HUD that you have in most of your fighter craft, and we're gonna have different levels of ability. So like a higher grade targeting computer will allow you to sort of track 4 targets at once and individually target them, whereas the base one maybe only let you do 1 target at once. So it's sort of it'll be a combination. It's going to be a combination of a sort of partly informed by real world stuff, and then partly informed by, you know, kind of what's sort of cool science fiction fantasy. But I always like to have the idea that you ground it like in sort of some real world stuff. So like, I mean, a good example is like the 300i. I mean, I definitely saw a lot of people saying, why do you have wheels on a craft? You know, why don't you just have
roll it on the deck?
Exactly, and that's the thing is, you know, yes, of course you can have, you know, anti-grav or you can have your VTOL thrusters, but like an F-35 can already do, you know, that can do that, but it's got wheels because it's a lot easier for you to wheel it around. It's less energy expended than like to lift off and move 10 feet and drop
same
down.
reason helicopters have wheels sometimes on the gear, or they put wheels on there. They have things on the deck, you know, they fucking jack that thing up and just wheel it around. So
Yep. Totally. So yeah. So we sort of do try and do a combination of sort of partly informed by real world sort of considerations of design. I mean, there's a lot more industrial design. I mean, we're still making, you know, obviously having fun creatively, but there is definitely more industrial design that goes on the spaceships that are being designed and built than in any game I've ever done before. Because we're thinking about like, how do you get in the ship? How do you exit the ship? You know, how would it land? How do you bring cargo in? How do you do, you know, all these things that typically in the past it was a ship that you never really got inside and, you know, didn't have to move around inside. It was just sort of like you clicked on it and you're in it. So we have to design all that on the current ones, and it's kind of fun. It's kind of a fun challenge for the artists, and it's a fun challenge on the programming side of it.
all right, I'm happy to hear it. So going back to something I mentioned in that last tirade I went on, the electronic warfare, is that going to be something, like I said, point, click, activate, lock, whatever, or is it Eve style where it's fucking boring, or is it going to be more you can have dedicated players sitting there at the console actively doing things? Is it going to be a challenge? Can we have, because I noticed, for example, on the Constellation, you've got 3 pilot crew positions, looks like. 2 up front and 1 that's kind of in the middle and back. I assume that's pilot and command. what are those other two guys going to be doing? You know, like, is that electronic warfare kind of stuff, is that going to be something that we can actually sit there at a console and do? Or,
So cool.
you know,
So cool.
is targeting, gunning, any of that sort of thing? Because in the real world, that's what happens. You know, you've got people that are dedicated to those things. Is that going to be similar?
No, so 100%. So the design of the multi-person ships is deliberately designed for that sort of cooperative play experience. So yes, you can fly a constellation by yourself, and say you can pull the turrets, and the turrets can gang to where you're looking. So think of that like I don't know, like on an Apache where you look around and the turrets will go. But it's much more effective if you had individuals in those turrets, because they can independently target different targets at the same time. And the same goes for running things like electronic countermeasures or whatever. So in the bigger ships, there are multiple stations and seats. So the bigger one, like the Idris Corvette, which perhaps we may show some stuff later on, and the carrier and other bigger capital ships we do, there are dedicated like sections where you would sit in that seat and be in charge of that. You know, like, so for instance, you're in charge of sort of the air combat operations that are happening, say, on the Idris Corvette has, say, 2 or 3 fighters that can fly, and you can be sitting at like this big holosphere, and you can task the people that have flown off and say, go after this target, go after this target. And the same would be for scanning and electronic countermeasures. I mean, there's going to be a whole bunch, like the idea is to have a huge amount of depth and all those features. I don't want it to be just a point-click boring thing. I don't want it to be, anything that's sort of kind of automated, where it's not really anything other than a dice roll. I kind of want to have some level of skill, and that would even include things like mining and stuff. But essentially, there should be level of skill in terms of balancing and adjusting your systems and tweaking them, and then deploying and using them.
Okay.
So just, like on the countermeasure side, there's a whole bunch that you can do on your ships in terms of how you're hiding your signature of the ship, in terms of, because the two things that the scanners will be picking up is sort of your electromagnetic signature and your heat signature. And those are things that you can shield, reduce your heat signature, and that all requires equipment and slots that will be on your ship that would take up slots that you would maybe use for something else, like a weapon or another targeting system or something. So you sort of make these balances. So that definitely so a stealth ship in this world it doesn't hide it. It won't be like cloaked as it's Star Trek cloaked, but a stealth ship would be like like a stealth ship is in today's world, where you have a small signature or no signature. I mean, but if you're at it, you'll see it fly. But generally, when you're in a space dogfight, I mean, the visual stuff is not that useful, because that's only when you're on someone's tail and you're up close. If they're behind you or above, you won't be able to see them. So that would be kind of more like sort of the real world stuff. And there's a whole bunch of stuff built for that, where someone may want to just be a courier or a smuggler, and in that case, they'll equip their ship for speed and the smallest signature possible. And as a smuggler, you may even have some hidden compartments aboard your ship.
So what you're telling me is Star Trek is possible. That's what we're doing.
Well, I'm telling you that we're not doing your ship becomes visually invisible. Let me put it that way. But in terms of on your scanners and stuff, you won't be on the scanners and everything. You may not be able to see. Like, you could have your ship set up in such a way that I can't see you. You can be right in front of me, and I can't target you with my systems, because I could get no signature from you.
Fantastic.
I would have to visually shoot you.
On the electronic warfare front, I'm sure my buddy Hells over at Fail Heat Challenge will be glad to hear it. Shout out. And so you mentioned the Idris, or Idris, I'm not sure. How do you pronounce it?
You can either probably say Idris or Idris. I'm English, or so am I.
It is English. Yeah, that's true. So the Idris or Idris, whatever. I'm sure you're aware that it has been seen at some point. Has that affected at all your philosophy on interaction with the community, or your transparency with the community?
It hasn't affected my interaction. I mean, I may not share JPEGs in the future, but I don't mind showing people. The only thing that I'm not keen on that is that we're doing at this event. There's a lot more stuff, and by the way, those are all some older images. So there's a bunch of.
Clearly, that was an unfortunate incident. I'll just say that right now. It shouldn't have happened, but it did, and I just want to know how that affected, the way you look at your community.
We're pretty open. What's that?
That would be a 5-pound Hershey bar.
Wow.
There goes your diet.
Yeah, no kidding. See you guys later. I have one in the refrigerator.
So like up for 2 years to 3 years, so it really is a matter of the 3 day before. It just I think I prefer to make sure when we unveil it, we do it. I control the unveil so we can show the best stuff rather than some of the stuff. But it's I'm not crazy upset, but I'd rather not have that happen in the future. Let me put it that way.
Okay, agreed. And so following up on that, how do you determine, or does some? Okay, that's I want your baby, as Chris Roberts is calling. I feel like that's something we should probably answer.
Yeah. I think you're probably getting pugged because they've got the addresses for both the live stream Skype account. So.
Wow.
All right. So anyway, getting back to what I was asking,
We're gonna put it on Do Not Disturb, and that stuff will not come up.
mine, I don't care. So let's see. All right. So getting back to what I was talking about, the how do you determine when you're going to release something to us? Because obviously you guys have been very transparent, but also it's been clear that you guys are holding stuff back, which is very, I'm sure there's a good reason for it, and I, understand there's a good reason for it. But what is your reason, and how do you determine when you're going to show us something? How complete does it need to be?
Well, basically, it needs to be at the point that we're excited enough to share it with you guys. So that varies depending on the kind of asset. But sometimes we think something's cool enough to show you at an early stage that people can get it. So we like the Avenger, for instance, that we showed, even though that's kind of in the
I haven't
very
seen it, by the way.
stuff.
I haven't seen anything in the stream prior to this, so.
Okay, right. Well, I think.
Airport. I heard about it though.
So it sort of depends. I mean, it's about what we're sort of ready. So if we're looking at it and going, here's our 10 notes on it, and we want to tweak these things, then we don't really want to share it yet because we know that you're going to say the same things we're going to say, basically. But if we're like, hey, we think this is really good, and let's share it, and yes, we know we're going to be adding and doing some stuff, then we do it that stage. So it sort of depends on a per asset basis. It's an internal feel on the team on kind of the stuff we're like, yeah, that's cool enough to show the community, or no, it still needs a bit of work.
Okay. All right, good deal. Now, you've mentioned earlier that modding is going to be a big thing, and people can run their own servers, which is awesome as far as I'm concerned. But the question I have is, do you only plan to have one central server cluster? Is there going to be room for two? Is there going to be room for a hardcore rule set? I mean, I look at games like Diablo, and I see that the hardcore rule set is almost what defines that game. Is there going to be room for something like that here? And I understand somebody could run their own, but it's not the same thing as having an official, hardcore rule set. Because I don't want people to, be able to run away from me when I try to kill them. Is basically what I'm getting at. And I'm a Eve player, and a lot of my brothers over at Fail Eve Challenge, they're Eve players too. They want to see the ability to brief people. Is there going to be a server, an official server that allows us to do that? Is there room for one?
Well, so our plan is we're just going to have one big persistent universe server, and that's it. And of course, you can do your own ones, which are they don't have the full functionality that the big persistent one does, just because that's a whole cluster of servers, and it's not something that's practical for anyone to have themselves. Right. But we're trying to design the world of the UEE setup that it's kind of like the real world. So I think that I definitely feel like people are like, oh, I want to do PvP and I want to grief people, and then there's people like, I don't want to deal with that, and I just want to be in my world. And then there's the invariable people are accusing people of being Care Bears, and everyone's getting upset.
The problem is that half of that group to enjoy it, there has to be some unconsensual people.
All I'm going to say is, in the way that we've designed the persistent universe and the dynamic matchmaking and the allocation of resources and some of the rules, my hope is that both groups of people can be in this world and essentially have their own areas that they can do exactly their stuff in and feel and have a big population of people that are like-minded and do the same stuff. and it also is in a way that maybe encourages some people to make the transition. Because I think, if you're never going to get someone to do something that they don't want to do, right? So you can't say you have to be always PvP because there's a bunch of people that are PvE that you could do that. But if you're just trying to jack people here in, I don't know, well, I shouldn't say LA because people do jack people. but there's stuff inside. So if you're like the way I like it, I definitely you should, even in a safe system, you can attack someone and do some PvP. But unless it's authorized, as in that person already has a bounty on their head and PvP is authorized on them, then all of a sudden, then you will get a bounty on your head, and then other people will be coming after you. So you may want to do it if there's a score that makes it worth it. So if there's a really valuable, there's a freelancer loaded with a whole bunch of goods. It's like ripping off an armor truck. Then it's worth doing something in a high security area if you're going to use the EVE terminology. But if it's just a new player starting out, the upside for going and harassing and attacking them is pretty low, and then you're going to have a lot of people after you. And that would be in the safe areas. But then, in the areas that don't have the law and order, anything goes, and there's a bunch of items and equipment that you want to get out there. So it's the game hopefully is going to encouraging people as they feel better and stronger, that they may venture out and go into more lawless areas that is a little more risky. But then they have some benefit from going there and getting some things that they may not be able to get in the sort of center plan. So my hope is that we'll have both camps of players can play in it, and they can both feel safe in their kind of world of Cocoon, and it also will enable them to maybe dip their toe in the other side of it. And that, I think, for me, that would be what I would want in the game.
Fantastic. It sounds good. So you mentioned, in EVE, there's Empire space. I understand that's kind of the similar area to where, the new guys are going to be starting. And you have incentivization to get out of that area into the 0-0 in EVE terms, or whatever, you're going to call it in this, more lawless space. Are you going to be able to make a living in that new area, or the new people area, or do you have to go out to the low security stuff?
No, I think you'll be able to be where you can make a living in any of the areas. It's all just going to be risk reward. It's if you want to be doing, trading runs, shipping goods, doing some stuff that you can do it all in the, pretty secure UEE space, make money, go about your business. It's kind of like I said, it's there's everything in the world. There's places you get paid more to go and do more dangerous missions. So there'll be at some point someone will want to be taking on a more dangerous mission because they'll have a bigger payday, but then the risk of that comes that they may be going into pirate space, or they're get a higher chance of getting attacked. So my model is that the game should have play for all the various groups, and we should have a big enough community that you have it, because in the real world here there's an ecosystem, right? There's people that just are a shopkeeper, and then there's people that are the police, and there's in the armed services protecting America, or everywhere else around the world. America, United States of America. But I just think and I think that the player base is going to be people that want to do all these different roles, and I want the game to provide those roles for them.
Okay.
My model is the real world, so that's why we have all these things like insurance and it's all these things that you would have in the real world, and then we have the risk reward system. So that's kind of my model. Anyway, you had also a question.
I had a quick question since you were talking about the instancing system, the dynamic matchmaking. Well, that's actually I know a lot of that system is still in the but there is a lot of, I guess, concerns and questions from forums
Yeah, I'll teach one.
and participating relates as to, I guess most of it is just speculation on how the instancing actually works. Some people are saying, oh, the matchmaking system only kicks in during random combat encounters. I'm like, no, because everything Star does is instance. So let's say you tag someone, say a POI, in like I guess a persistent instance like during planetary orbit or something. But let's say I tag this person, I want to initiate combat with them. I'm assuming you can't just randomly attack people in like a instance. Like, do you get dragged into a combat instance if you choose to engage someone?
Well, okay. So the way the system works is every player on the clan has their own worldview, their space, and then what the server's doing is determining what other players that it sees around the galaxy or NPCs is creeping into your worldview. You fly. So for you, you never like go. You're always in one instance. It's just all the server's doing is determining. Okay, well, you, and you, and you, and you. I think you're all going to be together because you're friends or you're enemies or you've tagged it as a point of interest or whatever, and it will put you in. It will make sure that you're all connected, and so on your instance, everyone else will suddenly be in that instance, and that will continue until you go far enough apart that the people will break up.
Oh yeah, but there are technical limitations to like how many ships. And
No.
So for example, like let's say a planetary orbit instance is usually pretty busy because you got all these travelers who are just coming to and fro. They have nothing to do with your business.
So we don't know. So basically, that's part of why we're doing the dogfighting module is to figure out how many people we can have in space in one instance at a time. It will be some finite amount, so Battlefield can have 64 players. Maybe we have more, maybe we have less, I don't know. It's going to really depend on when we get the dogfighting running.
Well, I guess my question is like, okay, so let's say you're under attack by a pirate, and you want to call a friend, and then the friend is like in an adjacent system, but he can't join because the instance happens to be full. Like, what happens?
Well, okay, so the idea with the instancing is that we don't let everybody fill the slots. So like there's slots reserved for players for their friends.
Okay.
So now if you just had you already had a bunch of friends and you wanted another friend to come in and you already used your sort of friend slots, then you're not then yes, you wouldn't be able to get into that. But you shouldn't be stuck in there should be enough slots for in a combat. People that are there can
so there's like a padding.
There's a padding on all the instances. And then what we do is when we match people up, we have a whole criteria. It's like kind of what your preferred sort of play style is, PvP versus PvE, who your friends are, who your enemies are, what the ping is between you and the other people, all these, and then also even kind of what your rating is as like a player. Like if
the combat rating.
We don't really want to like put someone that's like a super badass against someone that's just learning the game if we can help it. In the unregulated systems, then that's kind of anything goes. But in the more regulated ones, we kind of want to try and do matchmaking close to the level if possible. So you have all these criterias that you ratchet, and based on those, it fits the people in, and then always has some level of pad for the existing players so they can ask their friends to join them or jump in. And so it's a dynamic, and the other thing that's good about it is because it's dynamic, it's on a per system basis, like per instance basis, it's happening off and on all the time. So it's not like World of Warcraft is a more sort of rigid shard, and then it's very hard to move between them. This is like basically creating and destroying groups all the time. So even as you move through space in one system or from one planet to another planet, you could go in and out of different instances. You could do it like 3, 4, 5 different instances along the way. So it's sort of always dynamically doing. So my feeling is if in the player base, it will actually be good in terms of and we also populate with AI if there's real players. So this universe should just feel like moving around. And the way I kind of view it is that there's people moving around and they're kind of AI, and some of them and you won't really notice the difference.
Well, I don't plan on pirates, but here's an interesting scenario though. Let's say I'm a pirate and I want to there's a freighter I'm interested in. I know he's coming into a certain system. I'm waiting for him. But can you really do that since instances are dynamic? Like the freighter might arrive in the system, but in a different instance, so I can't even see him.
Well, it sort of depends. If it's someone that you're waiting for and you've tagged, then the matchmaking system's knowing that that's who you're waiting for.
Okay.
So that's the whole point of doing that sort of tagging. Like someone says, "Hey, I want you take a mission from someone. I want you to jump this freighter because I want to rip off the gold bullion in it." then the matchmaking system knows that's what you're waiting for, and it will try and put you in the instance. So it's I mean, the matchmaking algorithms, that's challenging. That's part of the dogfighting alpha. Part of the matchmaking in that will be there. I think I'm hoping it will work pretty well.
Thank you, buddy.
So, Chris, are the limited ships available again? I see the Retaliator and stuff on the page.
Yes. No. I don't know if we announced that. I thought we were going to kind of roll these out. So basically, not the Vandal Scythe is not available unless you were a Kickstarter person that pledged for it but didn't get to spend their credits, because we haven't been able to do that yet. But we've tagged those people specifically. We know how much people had been on credits. But the ships that were available, that weren't limited in number, but were available for the last 24 hours, are up for the 7-day period. So the M50, the Gladiator, the Retaliator, and stuff. Yeah. Give everyone a chance that had the Kickstarter. It's all on 7-day grace period. Melt your things, move them around, have fun.
I mean, polygonally, it seems like it's
Awesome. Glad to hear it. When you're ready, I've got several more questions. All right. So, in my last question, we talked a little bit about modding, about having your own server. You talked about having an application that helps people to import their designs for ships into the game. What sort of tools are you guys planning on offering to modders, and is that going to be something that comes out with release, prior to release, or is that something that's on the roadmap for afterward?
Well, no, we're going to try and have stuff for modders on the actual proper Persistent Universe release, and before that, we're actually going to be doing some fun stuff on the vehicle, like spaceship design. So we're going to announce something at Gamescon, and we'll release some assets, and we'll have something that will allow people to work on building a spaceship that we potentially put in the game. So that'll be fun. But generally, our goal is to roll out the sort of modding assets, Persistent Universe, or just after that, and maybe give some heads up on like how to build a ship and some other stuff before that.
Do you mind if I jump in actually and ask a question? Sweet.
Shoot.
He was mentioning earlier about the Connie and all the additional seats and stuff, and obviously there are the 2 turrets. But I was curious because the snub nose fighter, is there ever going to be a chance you could like trade that out with like an unmanned aerial vehicle kind of deal and like
a fucking UAV pilot?
Yeah, right, of course I'm going to bring up UAVs. But
sorry, RP. What do you call them? RP, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm armed.
Yeah, you have a UAV pilot right here, sitting here.
But like, oh, sweet, you're sweet. But like, you were talking about how they might be able to. Obviously, as future comes, the body can't handle as much. Maybe the drones could, but there'd be limitations such as range from your mothership or something like that.
Weight.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, something small, that'd be pretty legit.
Like more fragile, but obviously maybe a little bit more maneuverable than a pilot could handle. I mean, because have like.
I mean, potentially. I mean, I don't. That's not something that we have like in the design for right now, but there's no reason why it wouldn't be on a longer time. I mean, our whole goal is to just get the Persistent Universe up and then be reality.
Sorry, I just farted.
Not really.
Not really.
Guy around.
Bring it up. So we're going to announce, Chris, we got an announcement coming up here. We're waiting on Ben. Got some stretch goals coming.
You're just wall-to-wall fans.
So I know, right? It's crazy.
They're like fire
That's how we
codes.
roll, man.
Maybe being violated here. This building is like all asses and elbows.
It
Fire
is.
codes, Smire codes.
Yeah, I think we've actually
You can afford the fine.
got.
Is that a stretch goal?
A little bit of extra.
I think I have to pay the fine.
Yeah. The fire.
Pay the fire. We just don't tell the firemen that we're doing
The
it.
fire
Yes, because
marshal.
we're not
You gotta pay 'em
broadcasting
off.
to the whole world.
You know, we're number 1 on Twitch right now. We're they
Yeah!
Fucking right, dog.
It's because of my channel, which is broken.
Because of your channel?
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
happened
well,
to your
obviously it's
channel?
not because you're trying to open it's
Well,
broken.
audio's out. Ben will be here shortly. He's doing something.
Okay, so Ben is updating the site, Chris, and then
Ben's drinking whiskey.
is he drinking whiskey?
Game changer.
We got Lafroig Scotch, which is gonna have to get into.
Is it-
Oh, really?
We need to start drinking that.
Oh, it's Ardbeg.
Ardbeg.
Ardbeg. I was thinking
Ardbeg
Lafreg.
Udall, yeah.
That's better. Yours is better.
Dude, when are we cracking that puppy
The
open?
Lafreg is harsh.
No, Ardbeg is much harsher.
I'm sorry. I keep getting it mixed up. You're right. Ardbeg is the one that I'm thinking of. That's
Yeah,
really harsh.
Ardbeg will kick you in the nuts if
It-
you're
it's
not
just-
ready for it.
Yeah, I mean it's really like peaty. I mean
Oh,
almost.
I love it.
See, it is, but Lagavulin is good, but it's like looking at a campfire log. in a
Okay,
good way.
Ardbeg I like because it forcibly changes your day. But you were about to make an announcement.
I am, but I'm
We're getting distracted by the booze.
Rob and I are not coming out of the closet. We're staying in. We're waiting on Ben. Ben's gonna make the announcement. Of course, it's a pup tent.
It's a big club.
We're all in together.
It's a big club. Who's recording?
That's right. That's right. That's a good show.
Fuck, we're at Sear.
Oh,
Well, if anything's going on in the closet.
Hey, Eric,
I'm
quick question. Since after in about half an hour, I think are doing the interview.
It's not really an
Yeah.
interview, it's more of a
How's that set up and who's doing that?
Yes.
all right. So, which interview is it? Is it one you're doing?
Maybe it's
I got no idea. I know we have an interview for someone that we know very well.
I got. Is it? Well, we got.
So yeah,
Okay, I know who the interview is. You're doing it, right? So,
Well, that's what I'm asking. I don't know what the setup is and all that.
okay. So the setup we're gonna do it Skype-wise, and we'll kill our feed here, and it'll just be you and the interviewee up on screen like they are now.
Oh,
but
fancy.
he'll replace us. And then when you're done with that, he'll hang up and we'll reattach ours.
That'll be our opportunity to really get some drinking.
That's when the scotch gets over.
That's right. By the way, should we tell them who the interview is, Chris?
Sure. Why not? Richard Garriott, the British, is gonna Skype in from New York.
New York.
An hour later, we have someone else. We'll be Skyping in from somewhere else.
Yeah, George.
Lloyd Branch is the creator of the opening
Did Adam show up?
Aha, the band has arrived.
Hey guys.
All right, so Mike, you want to roll the stretch goals?
Sit down, dude.
Okay, here comes the first stretch goal.
We are announcing our 12 and 13 million stretch goals.
We have a 12 and 13 million stretch
13
goal.
million stretch goals.
12 million stretch goal. We can't. So we're a little delayed, so we can't see it. What is our 12 million stretch goal?
We got two. We're going to build professional sound studios. You all have seen Brian Gowie, who works out of his home.
Yes. He works out of his house.
He does an amazing job there, but with the professional sound studios, so we can have access to like Hollywood talent. We can bring in fans and record them, and if they don't suck, maybe use them.
Wait, no sucking.
No sucking. Yeah.
No sucking.
That is the rule
Okay,
of the audio.
Absolutely.
If you suck, you don't make the game. That's just the bottom line.
Yep, so just like we were getting Wingman out of his basement at 11 million, we're getting Martin out of his house at 12.
I don't like my basement. Though.
Wait, what was 11 million?
Get me out of the
Getting
basement.
out of the basement,
Get a
yeah.
new office for the crew. We're like at 40 people.
And
in
that
it.
one little tiny line at the bottom that was hanging out there all by itself. Oculus Rift support in the hangar.
Yeah.
Oh,
we got
yeah,
the- we
that's
got the
right.
12 million.
11 million
That-
was Oculus Rift
That was
support
kind
for
of
the
snuck
hangar.
in there at the bottom. It's like, wait a minute, what?
And have you guys tried the Oculus Rift?
No.
Yeah,
We got it set up out here for
We
you
set
guys
up
to check
first
out.
have some booze and then try the OR.
Okay, but
Well,
first,
yeah,
Hours ahead of you.
first try the
Vomit
Oculus
cam.
Rift, then do the booze.
No. We want a vomit cam.
Vomit. Good luck.
So, Mike, do we have? Now that was a 12 million.
That was a 12
Hold on,
million.
guys. What do we have? What about the 13 million, Mike? Can you throw that up? Okay, Ben, let's talk about 13 million.
Okay, we've got an additional flyable ship class destroyers.
Ooh, get yourself a
But then
destroyer.
The big one is Command and Control Center.
Yeah.
What's that mean?
Why don't you tell us about that, Rob?
In your Idris or your Constellation, in the extra seats,
Or your
in
destroyer.
the cockpit, or in your destroyer, even,
I was asking about
you
this.
will be able to coordinate teams of attackers and designate targets for other people and see what they're targeted at, and you'll be able to work together with your teammates to control the battle.
Fucking outstanding, man.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah, buddy.
That'd be nice.
So if we might hit that tonight.
We might.
We better.
It could happen.
It could. So those are the new stretch goals for 12 and 13, right?
Yep, and we've got further stretch goals down the road that we'll reveal once we hit those.
Yeah, at the end of the day, games like this cost a lot. And being able to crowdfund this entire thing would be a miracle and it'd be incredible. And it would keep the VC out of our hair, right, Chris?
Would. So, no, I mean, we're good either way, but I would much rather have this whole game be 100% community funded, so we don't have any other interest other than the coolest
At the game.
keep it that way. So, like my goal is, everyone on the American side here, like the Green Bay Packers is kind of sort of a fan team. I think in Europe there's Barcelona, which is sort of basically a fan soccer football team.
Ooh.
I'm Manchester United, but I'm just saying.
Chris, who we root for?
I like the idea of it really just it's pure that way. It's all the community cares about a great game. We care about making a great game. There's no other interest. There's no let's get an exit and sell to a big corporation in 2 years so we can get a 10x return on our money, or being part of a big publisher. They're like, well, we need you to be in this quarter because this product slipped, or we want you on this platform because we did an exclusive over here. So it's pure about making games. So if we can do it, which I think we can, mostly, more people sort of join, which is a good way to do it. We'll have a great community, a great ecosystem, and it will basically all be from people that loved space sims and wanted to bring it back, and we all do it together, which would be by far the best way to do this. And I feel like we can. I mean, it really does. I never would have guessed it could have been nearly what we've done so far. It's amazing. So I think it's the power of people that are really passionate about the games they want to play, which is one of the greatest things about crowdfunding.
People like this.
Well, you know what? That's a
like
good
this
point.
and people out there.
It's a good point because Sandy is our marketing department. I mean, you know
That's
what I
it.
mean?
Yeah.
Of one, and she's actually, you guys are all of us are the marketing department, right? So it's instead of us having like a massive, campaign. I love the Call of Duty videos and stuff. This is it, right? It's word of mouth. It's us out there hitting the bricks, telling people about the game, and that's how we're growing.
And an occasional sexy commercial.
And occasionally badass.
If you think about the commercial, that's all game assets. We built it. It's all stuff we needed to have in the game, and even like doing even though you're not going to be able to fly around down full into the atmosphere, that's all stuff that we're using in the planetary landing stuff, because we basically have a in-engine cinematic that takes you from out in space down onto the planet. So that's all sort of R&D for what we're going to be playing real time in the engine. So essentially, the marketing that's being done is basically the team showing their work in a polished state early, and word of mouth, right? So we don't spend anything. We don't buy ads. We do obviously a fair amount of press, and then it's we've got whatever we're up to now, 80,000, 50,000 people out there hitting the pavement. Talking about the game, telling their friends about the game. And that's what it's all about. It's kind of completely organic and actually very cool.
Yeah, and that's also why we want to do things like events, fan events, like we're going to do in Gamescon, where we're launching the hangar module, and then we've got some other ones planned up. I think we got one in October for the Wing Commander movie.
We'll hear some more about that later.
Oh, sorry, did I just blow something?
You didn't blow nothing. You didn't hear nothing.
Redacted.
But that's it. I mean, we want to reach out virtual handshake to the monitor with you guys, with everybody, right?
So we're talking about money. So I haven't seen the stream, and I assume that there are probably a few people watching the stream that haven't seen it prior to this point. So what are the things that are available right now? What can I buy? How can I support the project?
Right. Well, you can pledge for the ships that we've had before, right? But we also announced the Avenger today. We've shown that. That's a new ship that's available.
So we got the Avenger. Do we also have the limited edition ships from before?
We still have the
back.
300i and the limited editions. We have.
We've got the Caterpillar, the
Oh, go on. I'll let you.
the Caterpillar M50, Retaliator. Those are all available again today.
You have a 4-hour
Oh.
What's it say?
Have you guys clicked? Don't we just say our Skype says we've hour limit, and we just enable video again. You may have to enable video again.
Yeah, we're coming back. We good?
Well, I don't know.
4-hour limit.
4 hours.
You just have to enable video, and I think it's good again. There you go.
Good?
Here we go.
Are we back out?
No, we're not yet.
We're back. I can see you guys. Can you see us?
No, we're at the bottom.
You.
No, you turned it up again.
Oh,
okay.
Oh.
You broke it.
There we go.
You fool!
I'm sorry.
That was an excellent call.
That was an excellent call.
Yeah. Thank you, Skype. I think we should be back.
And go.
Yeah, we're back up. All right.
All right, you good?
Yes.
We good?
Okay, I guess I gotta get back on Designo channel.
Design enclosure.
Designopotamus enclosure, right.
There we go.
Oh, yeah. Oh, apparently I have a meeting.
That was me. It's okay. It's a meeting we're probably skipping today. Let's see what I would normally be doing at this time. Nope. Weekly status reports due and a leads meeting.
For my weekly status report, I was doing a live stream.
Yes. Yeah. This is
put that in Confluence.
Because one of the challenges we have of distributed development, we have Santa Monica, we have Montreal, we have Austin, we have Monterrey, Mexico, we have another small group in San Francisco. Is you all want to know what everybody's doing so that we can all keep track of it and make sure that it's all being done to the right level. We have a weekly newsletter, I guess, internally that we publish and say, hey, here's what we're up to, here's what's going on. Everybody shows kind of a little show and tell for everything, and yeah, so that's normally what we'll be doing right now. But
that occurs on Fridays, yeah.
Every Friday, so any questions can happen. They can go from there. We're ready for the Monday meeting where we discuss what we're doing this week.
Good deal.
Unless we're working Saturday.
Womp womp.
Well, we do that a lot too. What does Walt Disney say? If you can't get in by Saturday, don't bother showing up Sunday. Close that little bad boy.
Are they on with us? Can they hear us?
I don't know if they can hear us. Can you guys hear us?
Can you guys hear us? Yeah.
Oh shit.
Oh.
Wait, no. There you good.
Wait, we're good?
We're
You
good?
can hear us?
We can good. We can hear you and see you.
Yeah, we hear you great.
Okay, cool.
Oh, good.
Time's going too fast.
That would have been depressing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay. It's
Just like move your mouth, pretend you're talking.
Yeah, right.
Wait, no,
I just got it too.
So, who's bringing Richard in? Who's managing the Richard?
That's
Okay, so is that Travis?
Yep.
Okay, so Travis, I'll go down here and give Travis a call. So, cool. Maybe we should. I want to run a video, but I want to run the. So I'm going to run a secret video on my channel later, but.
Secret.
Is it legal this time?
It's something something we could not put on the hangar show. It's a Mark Skelton question.
Oh no.
Yes, Mike. We're still running it on the wingman. We're running on the basement. We're gonna do it. We're gonna. Yeah.
I can only imagine.
It's pretty funny. It's actually really funny and really inappropriate.
What is the rating on this?
I would say it's an M,
I'm afraid
definitely.
to ask.
Was it sent in from the forum?
No, it was a question that Mark asked me in the hookah bar. The one that made it on the show was if your friend Jack needed help off the horse,
Oh, good.
would you help Jack off the horse? I'm like, oh, he's a friend. Of course I'd help Jack off the horse. So that one made it. The other one is way worse and way funnier.
I remember that
Did
one.
you have to do all those questions in one day?
Yeah. The way that Hazy Thoughts works is we do. Mike takes it down to an hour or two, sets up right around the corner here at the hookah bar. What happened?
New contact.
Oh.
request.
Someone wants to do
Who is it?
Richard
Who is it?
Garriott.
It's Richard Garriott.
Wow, we should accept. Should we accept that?
Don't bother.
Hey, when
Where's he at?
Richard
Where's he
Garriott
at?
calls,
He's
you
at the top.
answer.
Stop.
Oh, now I know Richard Garriott's Skype information. Yay!
Richard Garriott, I'm hunting you down.
Can't have. We're not having.
Hello,
General.
Yeah, we're not doing Skype calls on this one. So.
There's two styles and sources.
Okay.
Can we add him in from here?
What is it?
Mike would add him in.
Right?
Is Richard ready?
Dave's calling him right now. He's coming. He's supposed to be up at 3:30. It's 3:19 now.
All right, so he just sent a request for us, and so
Yeah.
I just
Bring it.
accepted it. But you're gonna have to accept it out there.
You can do it there. Go ahead and
Yeah,
add him.
but you're the keeper of the call.
The
Can't add him from
gatekeeper.
any end. Can you add him from anywhere?
You're on a different.
Thing with the stuff.
Oh, I don't know.
You can add him.
I'm not going to add. That's not how it's going to work. We're going to
Okay.
kill my stream, and they're going to just have two. Richard.
Oh, we're
and-
not. We're going to kill ATX.
We're gonna kill
It's only a
ATX.
tool, man. Only a tool.
Go do computers.
We organized this beforehand. We're really thorough.
It's very,
We're gonna try
very organized.
science.
There's beer in the fridge. That's pretty organized.
Oh,
for me.
no, that's a good point.
Keep the beer
And a
stocked.
5-pound chocolate bar.
Yeah,
That's
right,
true,
like,
but it
how
needs to
do you-
freeze, yeah?
Apparently there's a message on
it
it.
or something. There was a message.
Well, that message is erased.
Well, maybe it didn't melt too. I mean, it was really hot when it got here, so I imagine.
That's how you look in your
Well,
fingers.
yeah, it's like
I don't know.
104 outside. It is insanely hot.
It's going to be 110 today.
Oh,
I
jeez.
love
This
Texas.
is like,
Yay!
it's like 119 or 115 or something.
Hooray
next
for
week.
the
Like,
air conditioning.
nuts.
and Iraq
Great.
standard.
Fucking going to the Stan Brothers over here.
At
Okay.
least it's not
Oh,
huge.
we're gonna-
We can cut away from here anytime, you know.
Okay. So, why don't we just do that now?
Hey, Chris, we're gonna cut
My
away
dad
for a
was
bit.
cutter for a year.
We're gonna cut away, and you guys take it for the next 10 and take Richard, okay?
Richard repeating his
Hashtag
system right now.
YOLO,
Oh,
hashtag
wait.
swag.
We're still going to cut away from us.
Absolutely, I'll go full.
All right, Chris, we're cutting out, and you'll get Richard, okay? In about 10, and then we'll come back.
Bye.
Set.
He's a good Richard in about 10 minutes.
Bye.
I guess we're on. It's just us now. All right.
Do you know if spacecrafts in Star Citizen will be able to strafe, like fire all the thrusters on one side and like move sideways? Or...
Richard, here.
A sec.
Richard.